Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Giri Varadari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Giri Varadari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari. So today we have Canto 10, Chapter 55, and the first text. And so we'll just read the translation here. It says, Shukadev Goswami said, Kamadev, it's kind of the Western equivalent is Cupid, an expansion of Vasudeva, had previously been burned to ashes by Rudra's anger. Now, to obtain a new body, he merged back into the body of Lord Vasudeva. And the purport here, so the BBT purport says, in his Krishna Sandarbha, Srila Jiva Goswami cites the following verse of the Gopal Tapani Upanishad to prove that the Pradyumna who was the son of Krishna and Rukmini is the same Pradyumna who is a member of Lord Krishna's eternal fourfold plenary expansion, the Chatur Vyuha. And Yatrasu Samsita Krishna Strivishakcha Samahitaha Ramanaruddha Pradyumnai Rukminya Sahitovavu. This is the verse, so unavoidable little Sanskrit there. There in Dwarka, the Almighty Lord Krishna, endowed with his full potency, resided in the company of his three plenary expansions, Balaram, Aniruddha, and Pradyumna. He's Vasudeva in this case. The Krishna Sandarbha goes on to explain with reference to the present verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam that the Cupid whom Rudra burned up with his anger is a demigod subordinate to Indra. This demigod Cupid is a partial manifestation of the prototype Cupid, Pradyumna, who is a plenary expansion of Vasudeva. The demigod Cupid, being unable to attain a new body on his own, entered in within the body of Pradyumna. Otherwise, Cupid would have had to remain in a perpetual state of disembodiment, a result of Rudra's having incinerated him with his anger. So in his English rendering of Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada confirms the absolute status of Pradyumna, Lord Krishna's first son. Pradyumna and Aniruddha are also expansions of the personality of Godhead, and thus they are also Vishnu Tattva, have the position of God. In Dwarka, Lord Vasudeva is engaged in his transcendental pastimes along with his plenary expansions, namely Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha, and therefore each and every one of them can be addressed as the personality of Godhead. According to Sridhar Swami, Pradyumna took birth from the womb of Rukmini before Sri Krishna's marriage to Jambavati and the Lord's other marriages took place. Subsequently, Pradyumna returned from Shambhara's palace. But before Shukadev Goswami tells of Krishna's pastimes with his other wives, he will narrate the entire story of Pradyumna for the sake of continuity. Sridhar Swami further notes that Kamadeva or Cupid, now appearing with the Pradyumna, is a portion of Vasudeva because he is manifest from the element Chitta, consciousness, which is presided over by Vasudeva, and also because Cupid is the cause of material generation, as the Lord states in the Bhagavad Gita, Prajanas Chasmi Kandarpaha, the progenitors I am Cupid or Kandarpa. Okay, so basically the idea is that they're telling the story of Krishna's first son, Pradyumna, and he's going to be identified as Cupid or Kandarpa or Kamadev, and so the purport is just distinguishing between is making sure that Pradyumna is not just that, but he's also a direct expansion of Krishna. So there's a whole story. If you look in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, I think it's chapter 20, it talks about how this happens. You start with Krishna, and then his brother Balaram is there, who then manifests these four personalities: Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. And they produce all the other Vishnu forms, and then a second version of these guys come out. So the second Chatur Vyuha, or four personalities of the same names, and they produce the Vishnu forms that are connected with the material world. Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, the one who lies on the waters of the ocean of the universe, and the super soul come out of him. And then it says that they are in charge of different things, elements within the material world. So they mentioned already the Vasudeva is in charge of consciousness, Chitta, and Sankarshan over the false ego, and Anuruddha over mind, and Pradyumna over intelligence. And intelligence here is the word is buddhi in Sanskrit, and it's not like IQ, just but it's actually kind of your wisdom, your ability to understand things in a deep level. It's also it's like how you perceive the world around you. You have a certain mindset, the way you understand things, the way you process things. So it's kind of your whole kind of way of seeing the world. And so it says that Pradyumna is connected with that. And so it's interesting why then he's also seemed to be. It says that one of his further creations is Cupid, the one who stirs the heart for love and sexual desire, the romance and sexual desire there in Cupid. And so the connection, interestingly enough, seems to be, Prabhupada seems to give that in the Bhagavad Gita, where he says, because at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3 of the Bhagavad Gita, there's a discussion. Arjuna raises this interesting question, which anybody who's tried to do anything with focus, much less a spiritual practice, notices that there's a distraction, and there's sometimes the inability to control oneself. Right? And so Arjuna asks Krishna, he says, what is it? What force is this? What is it that causes us to act inappropriately, even though we're unwilling to do it? It's almost as if we're overpowered by some powerful force. Like, what is it? Where we want to act a certain way, but then something, seems to forcibly cause us, even though we don't desire it, to do something different, inappropriate. And Krishna says it's this power of kama, lust, or in a more general term, it's desire. Yeah. And it says, can someone be wise with a low IQ? Yes, I believe so. Wisdom is a different thing, but we can talk about that. So here in this purport to Bhagavad Gita 3, chapter 3, text 40, Prabhupada says that Krishna says that this kama comes in three places in our bodies. It says it resides in the senses, in the minds, in the mind, and in the intelligence. And the way I would explain that is that desires, like if we have a certain habit, if we do a certain thing in a certain way, like say people who want to try to say quit smoking or something, right? Oftentimes people will smoke after meals, and so people will tell you if you're trying to do that, to do something else after your meal, just because your sense is going to want something. They're used to something. We have a certain rhythm, and so certain times of day, certain things happen, and so sometimes just our body will say, "Oh, I want this now." There's a certain habitualness there, and so we'll want to have something. We'll have some desire, and then other times things will just pop into our heads. Hey, what about this? What about that? What about something else? Right? And then usually what happens is that then otherwise the intelligence can see. You may not, the senses may be relaxed. We may feel peaceful and comfortable, and maybe the mind isn't coming up with anything, but the intelligence notices an opportunity for some pleasure. And so if it comes from the senses, then the mind will usually say, "Oh yes, let's do that," and then the intelligence figures out how. Right? We have to do these things. Okay, how to do it? right? If it comes from the mind, same, the senses start to anticipate. Ooh, that sounds like a good idea. And then again, the intelligence sees how, and then sometimes the intelligence sees how, and then the mind gets happy, and the senses also get happy. Right? You say, hey, let's go. Sounds good. But Prabhupada says he says the intelligence department becomes the capital of such propensities. He says intelligence is the immediate next door neighbor of the spirit soul. He says a lusty intelligence influences the spirit soul to acquire the false ego and identify itself with matter and thus with the mind and senses. The spirit soul becomes addicted to enjoying the material senses and mistakes this as true happiness. So here what Prabhupada is saying is that this power of understanding, and sometimes it's wisdom and sometimes it's it's wrongly directed wisdom and understanding is connected very strongly with our desire. So what happens to us as as souls, and we enter into this environment, there's a couple of things happen. This is like what we're experiencing here is something akin to a much more powerful virtual reality than has yet been invented through our normal technology. So that what happens is that we're given this equipment, right? We have the external, our physical self, and then we have the mental and the understanding, the emotions. We have all these different types of equipment here, our emotions, our ability to sense the different things and to experience things and to move and to think and to understand. These things are given to us. And what happens first is that there's this power. It's called the covering potency of Krishna, or it says it makes us forgetful of who we really are. When the soul enters into this environment, this virtual reality happens by making us forget who we are, and even that we are separate from this. And then there's another power called distraction. Hey, but look, there's opportunities here. Look at this, look at that. And what happens, a very powerful thing happens also when that does, because the soul by nature has full satisfaction and it has the capacity to love. It has the inner nature to have love, which is something even greater than satisfaction. And also, naturally, the soul perceives the love of God. It has love, and then it also experiences love and connection with everything. That's a natural situation. So when that gets covered, and we get put into this environment with our equipment here, mind and the body and the emotions and all these things. First, there's a real bewilderment, right? Because what is this? Where am I? What's happening? And then there's a disturbing feeling that somehow there's a lack. There's something missing, right? Because no longer do I feel the full satisfaction of just existence itself is supposed to be satisfying and blissful. Existence is supposed to be bliss, and we may have noticed that doesn't always seem to be the case in our lives. And that's because of the forgetfulness and then what we do to compensate for it. And so we feel that something is missing. We don't know what it is. We don't know what it is, and we know that we're not satisfied. And so then we notice as we move around and we do various things that there are sensations and thoughts and experiences and ideas that are either pleasurable or not, unpleasant. And and even the lowest forms of biological entities will go towards things that are beneficial and go away from danger. If you're walking along the sidewalk and you step near an ant, the ant will get out of the way. Even one-celled organisms will go towards signs of food and away from signs of danger. It's a attachment and aversion comes in. And so we begin to compensate for this certain, like the emptiness, and there's a vacuum left by being blacked out from understanding our true selves. And so then we begin to try to deal with it. We try to find things that are pleasant and try to avoid the things that are unpleasant, and develop different techniques. And that's for that we you know may have a whole plan for our lives. If I'm going to become rich and famous, I can get, and the idea that happens there, of course, is that all of the different positive sensations, they produce a result that lasts for some time. And we know that that you have a tendency to get used also to what your level of pleasure is, and that becomes the new normal, right? And so you have, and so it's kind of a frustrating situation. The more you have, sometimes the greater thing, the greater effort you have to make to break through just the feeling of normalcy. As you know, in the brain, right? There's the dopamine that comes up, and so if you do something really artificial, it increases that. Then all the other things that used to be pleasant, that had a lower level of that, no longer do anything. And so there's this drive to try to figure out how we don't know what we've lost, but we're trying to recover something. All right. And so that's what we're dealing with now. And what happens, it says that, that the intelligence, the buddhi, is really trying to figure out what's happening. And here Prabhupada says that the buddhi helps us to develop an identity. Prabhupada calls it the false ego. That, okay, I'm here. This must be me. I'm in this situation. Now, who am I? Right? Who am I? And so we develop a whole history and a whole understanding of who we are here. And that's also a big part of our happiness and distress. Right? If we think we're somebody really great, that's really joyful for us. If we think, or other people think that we are not so great, it can be a source of tremendous pain. You hate to be somebody who's of no consequence, and you like to be someone of consequence. So what Prabhupada gives us and the Krishna gives us in that third chapter, how to begin to reverse this process. He says we have to start to become. He says actually we can. What does he say? We can direct. We need to direct the intelligence. He says to understand ourselves as spirit. What is it? Let me see if I can get the exact quote here. He says, what does he say? Yes, this is from Bhagavad Gita 343. He says, it says, one may not give up work and prescribe duties all of a sudden, but by gradually developing Krishna consciousness, one can be situated in a transcendental position without being influenced by the material senses and the mind. And he says, by steady intelligence directed towards one's pure identity. This is the sum total of the chapter, because what Krishna says is the soul is above all the artificial equipment. And so if we want to, in some ways, because what happens is that there's the power of absorption that helps our forgetfulness. There's a word in Sanskrit called abhiveshana, to be absorbed in something. So if we had the experience, right? If there's a video or a movie, and if it's really, really just entrancing. Have you had that experience? You're sitting in a theater, and you're just entranced by the movie, and then when the movie stops and the lights come on, it takes you a few seconds to come back into your body. Oh, here I am. That's the power of abhiveshana, or absorbed in anything. That's it. So what happens when we think that the equipment is us, our consciousness tends to be absorbed, and we think that the equipment here, the body and the mind and things, are going to help us to solve this problem of why I don't feel fulfilled. and why I don't have joy, then we have a tendency to absorb ourselves in those things. Mhm. So I'm going to give you just a little something you can play with, um, because what's happening, I think you'll notice if you think about it that we have a tendency to be fairly absorbed. Our consciousness becomes just like you're in the movie. We can be very much in our minds. Like and a lot of things that we do, we're conscious in different places of our body. Like if you remember something, or somebody asks you, say, a philosophical question here, there's a tendency you'll find yourself kind of looking up and looking in your head. Your attention will go to your head. Mhm. And that also gives energy to that. When we think that mind is me, and we're really absorbed in that, it gives the mind energy, and so it goes and it goes. And so and then if we are looking for kind of a deep understanding, we're trying to ask ourselves, make a decision where we have to consider different options, you'll go to your heart. Your attention will go to your heart. And if you're trying to think, having a vision for the future, what you want to do, it's going to go to your forehead. There's a tendency to do that. It goes different places. Mhm. But when we go to those different places, we tend to get absorbed in it. And so when we do that, if we look at ourselves, we'll find that we're getting absorbed in different things, different experiences, and being absorbed like that energizes those parts of us, and takes us out of balance in one sense. So, or sometimes we have a situation where we value certain parts of ourselves. Maybe we value the mind and what we know, and we don't value, say, our emotions or other sorts of things, or our visionary or creative abilities. So we identify more with one than the other, and that means we get absorbed in those things more easily. So I'll just give you something you can play around with, which is, can you be aware for first? Maybe we're not so identified with our physical self. So can you first just try and feel what your body is feeling? Be conscious of it. You can start with, because that kind of grounds you to start out with. It'll get you out of your head and other places, and just feel, because oftentimes things are happening in there, little subtle things that you're not feeling, and try to feel your whole body. You do this later. I'm just going to give you a little thing, but you can try that and be conscious of that, and then be open to what are you feeling right now. Because a lot of times with emotions, if we don't recognize them and acknowledge them, they build up, and that's when they explode on us. So what are you feeling? Give attention. Don't get absorbed, but just feel, right? And just feel what's happening in your feelings, you know. And then can you feel that place? Yeah, I mean, yeah, yeah, the pain is, but anyway, for the moment, feel it. Just be with it with some level of understanding and compassion, you know. And then can you feel your heart a little bit? Can you feel what's happening there, your place of wisdom? And then what are you thinking? What are your thoughts? Right? And now can you step back, and can you step back within yourself and be open to create a big enough space in yourself to monitor all these things at the same time. And so in that case, you have to not be absorbed in any one of them, but you can kind of be in a position. And when you do that, you'll notice that the mind slows down. The emotions tend not to rage so much because they're being heard. And so you be aware of your physical condition, be open to, it's like when you listen carefully to someone, you kind of open yourself a little bit more. So listen to yourself. Or the things that you think are yourself. Listen to yourself. Don't be squeezing this off and squeezing that off, and but just for a minute, you pull back, and you be open to what your equipment is telling you. all your different varieties of the equipment, the physical, the mental, the emotional, intellectual. And if you do that, you may find, and usually it's going to come somewhere in the heart, you'll be able to understand that you're there, that you're not your mind or your body or your intelligence, all these things. Yeah, it's a way to become, you're observing, but you're also being. You can feel yourself being there, not just an observer, like completely detached from it, but you're there in the middle of these things. And so you can see that you have these things, you have your equipment, you're in this world, but you're not these things. And this is what I think what Prabhupada means when he's saying that one thing you can do, it's one thing you can do to have your intelligence understand yourself as being beyond all the equipment. And it's a good state to be in many times, actually, because we're out of balance because we tend to identify and value certain parts of our equipment and undervalue other parts, and that causes us to lose our identity and to get into kind of just be absorbed in them. We're really meant, to have that kind of situation, and that's really that's a really powerful type of renunciation, is to just be able to see, oh, I'm separate. I'm here and I'm separate. This is the equipment I have right now and this is the world I have to act in. This is the equipment I have, but I'm separate from that. It's mine, but it's not me. And see what that does for you. Uh, so I mean, I guess we're here almost at 1:45. So let's stop, and I guess there already were questions happening, and so let's start with those and carry on.
Krishna, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, clearly.
Welcome, welcome. We always love hearing your brilliant presentation. We comment on some of the things you said there. Krishna is so wonderful. Krishna is so wonderful that he explains to us in Bhagavad Gita that we're born into delusion. Everyone is born into delusion based on desire and hate.
Yes.
Krishna explains that your current situation is you're being dragged around by what you like and what you don't like. The senses and the mind are pulling, pushing, and attracting and repulsing from certain things. And then Krishna is so wonderful that he actually gives us a perspective, just like you were explaining, just like in the 12-step meaning, the first stage is denial. You're thinking you're fine, just going along with your mind and senses. And then at one point, there's an understanding based on the fact that Krishna gives us access to the idea that there's something else, that you could be making your choices or some other basis of um, selecting your trajectory. And Krishna says devotional service.
Yeah.
And when we have the choice of either being, overwhelmed and our life being out of control because of the pull of the mind and the senses, or taking shelter of the spiritual master, having a prescribed duty, and it says that they say that you begin to understand, you know what? Like you said, lust is pulling us, desire is pulling us, but then my mind and senses, because of that, I'm out of control. But then you understand that there's a power higher than that.
Yeah.
That Krishna's power, Krishna is so wonderful that the wisdom and the grace that comes from Guru and Shastra and devotee association gives us uh, another choice, and that there's a power, like they say in the 12-step meeting, there's a power higher, and I want to turn my life over to that power. and then we can get pulled out of the out of control condition. They have this thing with the big trucks, the big trucks, the semi-tractor trailer built vehicles, 18-wheelers.
Mm.
When they're going down a mountain, they say, stay in the low gear, don't go too far. But sometimes the, the power of the gravity and the momentum of the truck with this big load, the truck is unable to stop. So they provide these like turn off.
Yeah. Yeah, emergency, little yeah, little emergency turn off things. Yeah.
So what are those for practicing devotees? What are those emergency sleeves that our truck can go to? What are they?
Prashadam, kirtan, prescribed duty. It's time for class. Wait a minute.
And also to be, be a little compassionate to yourself,
Yeah, revealing one's
you know, you know, because one thing that hurts us is that if we run off the tracks, then we feel like we're failures, or we feel that, oh, now this is no, you feel ashamed of it. And we don't like to behave, in inappropriate ways. It's not that we like that, and that's great. We want to continue it, but that this is part of what we're dealing with. There's going to be ups and downs
Someone in the background.
because we're two things are happening at once, right? We have some attraction for Krishna in the spiritual life, but we have this momentum from so many lifetimes of doing the opposite thing, trying to find fulfillment with the environment and the equipment. The other thing that's a problem is that sometimes we because like you said, there's the attraction and there's the aversion. And so if we when we say that this is not our real self, we can become averse to that, or parts of it. Maybe we don't like the physicality, we don't like this, we don't like that, and we say I'm not that, but in a way that's rejecting. And so I suppress that. So a lot of times renunciation is trying to push something away. But the real renunciation is understanding that that's just not me. And so if I either identify or disidentify, say that's not me, that's a different kind of identification, and that causes your consciousness to be fixed on that. And so the real renunciation is to understand, yeah, these things are here. This is the equipment I have. This is the world I'm living in, but it's not me. And so that's why I think that's one of the things that Prabhupada taught us, always repeat, is that you're not the body, and that meant all of the other bodies, the emotional bodies and the mental body and that kind of stuff, not just the physical body. That we're a soul, and so I think we really have to I think in some ways put some attention on that, so we can begin to understand. It's not going to be something that just kind of dawns on us from above. I think he says, use your intelligence and try to be able to see that we have all these things, but we're not those things. There's a separate being there. And I think we can do that by kind of creating space for listening to the different parts of us in the world around us and others.
Thank you, Giri Govardhan Prabhu. We have two questions from the floor. One from Venetia. Venetia, would you like to unmute yourself and read your question, or we can read that for you in case you're on the bus?
No, I can unmute myself and read the question.
Okay.
And let me just put my glasses on. Thank you so much. And I always am so appreciative of your class. And actually, we had a community class the other day, and the question came up that we didn't know the answer to, and we knew you were coming. So it was sort of like the professor is coming, the doctor is coming. We can ask the professor.
I will try.
Okay, so no pressure.
Yeah.
So it was a community class, and we were listening to a lecture by Srila Prabhupada. And he was mentioning, and so apologies that this is off topic from your wonderful class. and I wrote down those methods you gave. I'm going to employ them moving forward. I love that exercise you gave us. But this is off topic from your class. He was mentioning different philosophical methods, like philosophical methods or approaches of various Vaishnava acharyas. And he mentioned these terms in rapid succession that sort of left us a little foggy of Sudavaita, Dvaitavaita, and Vashishta Advaita. And I was just, my question was, what are those methods? What are the tenets, and how do they differ from our lineage, if they do? And forgive my ignorance. And recognizing that's probably, if you do know the answer, presumably those are enormous questions, but just like, what are they, I guess?
Well, I actually can't answer the specifics of those teachings, but here's what's trying to happen.
Okay.
Is that we have a notion. Usually there's kind of a notion that either things are separate and individual, or that that ultimate reality is one and homogeneous.
Right.
And so that's that. And so this there was the great teacher Adi Shankaracharya, who he tried to use the Vedas, the Upanishads in particular, and he came to the philosophical conclusion that everything that's existing is illusion, and there's only the one. And so the diversity, because here we are, right? All of us are here. Right? So how are we one? And so he says, well, he says it's illusion. Right. And then when you wake up, when you wake up, nothing happens because you never existed. And there's one. And so then the other thing, the other opposite is that everything is kind of disconnected, and there's all these many things. And so what our teaching is, and these other acharyas were trying to figure this out, because we understand that that Krishna is the source of everything, and actually is everything. That he has the power of existence. And so there's Krishna, and there's all this, all the universes and so many beings and all this kind of stuff, but it's all Krishna. So like, and wait, if you could do an experiment, you could prove it. Like if you could remove everything, like have a huge vacuum cleaner and just suck up all the planets and the universes and everything, and even take it and take off Krishna's flute and his clothes and his peacock feather, everything could come back in a second. Poof. Because it's all of it is just a part of Krishna. He can manifest it all again. But if you could remove Krishna, everything else would disappear. So there's oneness, but there's diversity within the oneness. So oneness doesn't have to be homogeneous. It can just be that it's all connected, and it all comes from Krishna. Krishna could change the whole universe. He could change himself and change the whole universe just instantaneously, because space and time also are in Krishna. They're created by Krishna. He's not limited by those things. He's not inside of space and time. He only appears to be. And so they were trying to find ways to reconcile unity and diversity. And so they took slightly different approaches to that. And what Lord Chaitanya, our tradition comes from, said there was simultaneously one and different. Achintya Beda Abeda Tattva. You can't conceive of it as one, because it's because there's variety within it, and you can't conceive of it as different, because it's all Krishna's energy. It's all Krishna's existence. And and the reason that Krishna decides to do it that way, because he could have it be all homogeneous, there's no problem. The reason he's had and why everything is so personal is that he's decided that love is better than peace and full contentment. Real love is the highest possible experience. And so for that, you need others. And so in one sense, there's only Krishna. The Prabhupada kind of uses this, he has a little koan, almost like a Zen koan. He says, nothing is different from Krishna, but Krishna is different from everything.
Right.
You can play with that if you want to do it.
Mental bumper sticker.
Yeah, so it's all part of Krishna. So why did he do that? Why did he create it like this? Because when there's other beings, then there can be connection and happy and love that way. real love can happen. And so that's why he did it. That's why it's not homogeneous, but it still is one. There's one thing. There's Krishna's creation. There's one thing. There's Krishna, and all the ramifications of him. And so that's the bhakti has this notion that there's love is the highest possible thing. All right?
Thank you, Giri Govardhan,
so helpful.
for giving us so many things to play with today. So there's another question on the same of the same complexity. We were talking about Sankhya philosophy and all those elements, and Krishna Gauda is asking, what is Mahat? What are the characteristics of 24 tattva? And that's the question.
Okay, well, there's what happens is the material universe goes through periods. There's Mahavishnu, Karnadakshaya Vishnu, and when he's asleep, all these universes are coming out of the pores of his skin, and they last as long as a breath. They go one of his breaths, but there's certain times he's awake, and there's no material universes at all. And all the living beings go into his body, and the material energy turns into something called pradhan. It's like almost like something like you'd say it's absolute zero or something. It has no energy any longer, and so it has no diversity, it has no activity, and so there's no material creation at all for the period of it. I think it's this day, and it's at night when he's creating. And so then when it's time he says, then he feels how all the different souls, they have unresolved issues. And it says it turns his body blue because it's like, we're stuck in here, but we want to deal with all of our issues. And so he feels pressed that he needs to create again. And so he glances over that pradhan. And that glance has two components. There's time and there's the souls. It actually goes through an intermediary. There's Shambhu, prototype form of Shiva. But and the souls and time enter into the pradhan and begins to activate it. And that's called the Mahatattva, great principle, right? And so it's activated pradhan. Actually, Lord Brahma's body is made out of that. So it's the activated pradhan ready to kind of do things. And then what happens is the three modes of nature come into play, and so pradhan mixed with with ignorance makes matter, with goodness is the mind, and with passion is the intelligence, because the intelligence helps the senses understand things. So it's active. You'd think it might be the intelligence would be higher, but it's not. And then everything kind of follows from that. So then in Sankhya, you can analyze it in different ways. So you can get more detailed or less detailed, but you're trying to enumerate the various things that are there and understand how, by breaking things down, how things fit together. And so you have all these different, things that come out of it, different types of elements, different types of, sometimes they analyze it 24, sometimes it's greater than that. Sometimes it includes chitta, consciousness, or a kind of consciousness that's narrow, because we're not very much aware. We're mostly absorbed. So there's different methodologies for going about that. But the Sankhya tries to enumerate all the different components of the world and tries to understand it in that way.
Thank you, Giri Govardhan Prabhu. Thank you. Krishna Gauda, was that satisfactory? Was that good? Great. He looks very happy and satisfied, Krishna Gauda. Okay, thank you, Giri Govardhan Prabhu. Wonderful class. We have to rewatch it several times. We have low IQ. We'll try to comprehend everything.
Well, join the club,
Thank you. Okay, it's darshan time. Let's all be seen by the Lord. Shishi Radha Muralidhar Shigur Chandra Ki Jai. Giri Govardhan Prabhu, wonderful class. Thank you so much for your association, for your expertise, realization. It was a hope-giving class. Thank you.
Thank you for letting me participate in this wonderful Sangha.
Yeah, when you were describing how the souls enter into the body of Mahavishnu, I was thinking, yeah, we're like parasites in the body, or and get out and get our issues resolved.
Yeah, we cause a disturbance.
Oh, yeah. Okay, do you have a few minutes for the afterglow, Giri Govardhan?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Would anyone like to say anything in line with Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra? Bhima Prabhu, we see your hand raised. In approval, or what is it?
Haribo, am I okay? Can I be heard?
Yes.
I just wanted to say that, yeah, that's that's always that wonderful confidence-giving vision that Radhanath Maharaj, and I'm sure it's been said by Prabhupada, but I remember Radhanath Maharaj when I was asking him about Achinta Beta Beta Tattva, Lord Chaitanya's philosophy, that we are simultaneously one and different. And Radhanath, and of course at the time I didn't understand that. And he said, well, you can understand it by this simple phrase: there is Krishna and there is Krishnas. Apostrophe yes. There's Krishna, and then there's that which belongs to Krishna, which is us. So that when we become devotees, we have willingly, by desire, allowed ourselves to become Krishnas. As Prabhupada said in his poem, make me dance, make me dance, make me dance. So we sort of join this waltz with Krishna. Krishna comes over and says, would you like to dance? And we can either refuse him and sit it out at the ball, or we can take his hand and spin about this world, in wonderful music and the lights spinning and being the cynosure of Krishna's attention. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. And when we do that, we also add something to the dance. Because sometimes we talk about cooperating with Krishna, or that sort of thing. But it's like Krishna doesn't want robots. He could do that already. So he we'll add something to the flavor there, to the soup, the transcendental soup. We have something to bring. Like, Prabhupada said, he made that prayer, please, let me, make me dance as you like. But he was also, he had ideas. He had ways of doing it. He wasn't just waiting for Krishna to move his arms and legs, because that's what devotion is. It's not just cooperation. Others, Krishna can do that. He can just make everybody do what he wants, but he wants actual relationship and connection. And so he wants us to add something, have it be in line with his desires. But Prabhupada could have done things, even slightly differently. He could have done this, or he could have done that. He tried things, and some things wouldn't work, and he tried other things. This is what makes it interesting for Krishna, that we have something to bring to the table. Actually,
what a wonderful point. We're not losing our individuality, and we all have our unique offering to make.
Yeah. Yes.
Krishna.
And Krishna wants that. He really wants that. He doesn't want to just do what I say. That's boring. It's totally boring.
And devotees are so wonderful. They're so unique.
Yeah, everyone is unique.
And Amrita Kishore, they're so different, but they're sweet in the same way. Sweet as devotees.
Yeah.
Thank you, Govardhan.
Krishna enjoys that. That's happiness for him.
Yeah. Krishna enjoys beards and glitter, forehead.
Everything. Sometimes the people have different ideas. There's arguments with Krishna. It's like that.
Okay, thank you very much. Did this question get answered? Okay. What is yoga karmashu kolasham in Bhagavad Gita 250? This sacred sentence is the motto of many organizations, schools, institutions, etc. in India and abroad. Bhagavad Gita 250, karmashu karsalam. What is that?
I have to quick look it up.
250.
250. Okay, let's look at it. Let's look at it here quickly. Gita chapter 2.
Krishna God is getting two of his answers, two of his questions.
Yeah. Text 50, huh? So
250.
Yeah, 250. Yoga Karmasu. A man engaged in devotional service rids himself of both good and bad reactions, even in this life. Therefore, strive for yoga, which is the art of all work. And for us, that means because yoga means to be connected, right? And so if our activities are connected with Krishna, because we're bhakti yogis, and so different forms of yoga may look at that a little bit different. And even in the early chapters of the Gita, it's mostly talking about yogas, and Prabhupada finds a way to bhaktiize those things. So bhakti is really heavily in the middle 6 chapters. And the first is a lot. Prabhupada calls it the yoga ladder or progression of yogas. But for us, the actions with connection and the actions in yoga means we're connected with Krishna. We're seeing everything is connected with Krishna. We're seeing that ultimately we are connected with Krishna. We're seeing how we can be in harmony with Krishna. How we can really be grateful for Krishna is, I think, the big thing we want to do. Is that our good feelings for Krishna motivate our actions. Ultimately, is what we want to do. At first, we're a little. Our heart isn't so open, so we kind of intellectually say, okay, this is something Krishna likes, I do this. This is something Krishna likes, I do that. But if we begin to understand what Krishna is giving us, is the opportunity here is that he's giving, when he gives us the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, he's giving himself. It's him in a different form, and he's reaching out to us and saying, here, I want to be connected with you. He's not standing off and saying, hey, I'm available if you really want to prove yourself. He says, here I am, come on, try this. And so we should have some real gratitude and amazement that Krishna is interested in us, and that can motivate our action. So the connection, can be from kind of abstract to a lot more concrete, depending on our hearts.
Thank you. Yoga means connection. Bhakti yoga means Krishna and Krishna.
Yeah, exactly.
Correct.
Yeah,
Thanks.
exactly.
Thank you so much. Thanks everyone on this call. Have a wonderful Friday. Give it to Krishna. Come back. There's a lot of fun going on. It's not going anywhere. Mahavishnu is awake. We're all in existence. So let's not waste it and give it back to Krishna and connect nicely. with each other. Bhakti Devi, Hare Krishna, good to see you. There she is, all buckled up, bundled up for Krishna. Okay, Hare Krishna. Have a nice day, everybody.